So then the third topic I want to discuss is tokenization. Tokenization, or tokenizing, is the process of exchanging sensitive data for non-sensitive data called tokens. And these can be used in a database or internal system without bringing it into scope. That's by TokenX. So what that looks like is, and I created a little diagram here. So without tokenization, how do we typically transact? Well, if you want to make a purchase of something, you typically give your personal information, your name, your address, email, telephone number, and of course your credit card information. And it's done traditionally through an encrypted network. And the process goes through their API. And then in return, right, you get access to their service or their goods. Like you can order on Amazon or something like that, right? We do this every day. However, the problem is around here, when you give your personal information, there's a lot of opportunity for hackers to infiltrate the system. So even though it's supposed to be a secure system, it's really not that secure, which is why we've seen a lot of fraud activity in the recent years, hackings, and it's only getting worse and worse. So enter tokenization. What that now does is it sort of removes the personal information side from the transaction process. And so how that works is, here you are, and you're going to interact with actually a third party. So a third party gets involved, and you give your personal information, right? Payment sensitive information, credit card info, personal information to the third party. They store it on a cloud-based server, and in exchange, you get something called a token. It's not like an actual token. Again, it's really just a bunch of code or a bunch of numbers and letters. What that does is you can use this token now to interact with businesses, obviously, that accept the token. And what that does is it completely removes the personal information and the sensitivity from the equation. So it becomes much, much harder for cyber attackers, hackers to get into that, to get your information that way. Because in the first model, right, they can go right in and there's your personal information, they take it out. With tokenizing, if they try to get you here, all they're getting is just this series of numbers and letters that have no value at all. So it's essentially useless. And then, so the way this process would work is you have your token, you go to the business, you give them your token, and then what they do is they take your token, go to the third party, and then they get the payment information, process it, and then you get your goods and services. And the token can actually be programmed to have like a certain shelf life. So it might only be active for just one transaction or for a few transactions. It's all programmable because everything is open source. And so this is kind of a rough idea of how it works. Of course, if anybody has a better understanding of it, please definitely share about it. And so yeah, this is the current model of tokenization. You can this kind of thing. Actually, I think one good example of tokenizing might actually be with Apple Wallet. If you ever use Apple Wallet or Apple Pay or maybe Samsung Pay, I don't know if Samsung has it, but yeah, like you give your personal information and then you get a kind of representation of what that would be in the form of that quote unquote wallet, and then you can use that to transact with companies. So, and the transaction, it's very quick. It's very, very quick transaction rate, and yeah, so. I think this kind of tokenization will be implemented with like very big players, like for instance, like banks and like big banks and like credit card companies maybe. So yeah, that might be how that plays out, but we'll see. So that's tokenization. Is there any questions on that, or is that pretty much clear too? Of course, like I said, with all the new crypto functions, it's the actual activities that we're doing are not changing, right? Like we're still buying and selling goods, we're still investing, we're still, creating companies and games and whatever it is you want to do. So the activities don't change. It's just the underlying process that's changing. And the major shift that's taking place, obviously, besides the decentralization, is that in the previous, systems that have been in place, the companies and organizations that were operating it were around much longer than all this technology has existed. So, like things like encryption and, data protection were fitted onto already existing systems. So they're very complicated, they're very, clunky and very, very open to hackings. So with blockchain, all the security, all the transparency, it's all built directly into the system from the ground up. And so while the underlying process behind it is very, seemingly complicated, at the user level, it'll be much simpler and much more secure and much faster and more efficient. And that's kind of what we're seeing. So this is pretty much everything I wanted to talk about today. All right, so that's everything for today. Check out the homework assignment. We're going to link it in the description down below. And if you have any questions, please leave a comment. Thank you.